47 baby-discovered mother bear was donating organs while still alive. What happened next was shocking. The morning mist clung to the ancient pines like whispered secrets, and Ranger Ethan Marshall felt something was different about this particular dawn in Whispering Valley. He had walked these forest paths for over 15 years, but today the air carried an unusual stillness that made his skin tingle with anticipation. As he adjusted his worn leather boots on the damp earth, a soft rustling from the nearby clearing caught his attention. What he saw through the filtered sunlight would challenge everything he thought he knew about the natural world. A mother bear sat peacefully beside a towering oak tree, her massive form surprisingly gentle as she cradled her small cub against her chest. But something was wrong. Or perhaps something was extraordinarily right in a way that defied explanation. The mother's dark fur seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light, as if tiny stars had been woven into each strand. Her breathing was slow and deliberate, not labored like a sick animal, but purposeful, as though she was concentrating on something beyond Ethan's understanding. The cub, no more than a few months old, pressed its tiny paws against its mother's chest and made soft, melodic sounds that seemed almost like a lullaby. Ethan had never heard bear cubs make such gentle, musical noises. The little one's eyes held an intelligence that seemed far too mature for its age, and it kept looking between its mother and the surrounding forest as if it understood something profound was happening. Ethan crouched behind a cluster of ferns, his heart beating faster with each passing moment. The scene before him felt sacred, untouchable, like he was witnessing a ceremony that had been performed in this very spot for countless generations. The mother bear's eyes were closed, but her expression was peaceful, almost blissful. A warm golden light seemed to pulse gently from her body, growing brighter and dimmer in rhythm with her breathing. As minutes passed, Ethan noticed other changes that made his scientific mind race with questions. The grass around the mother bear had grown greener and more vibrant, as if it was receiving some kind of nourishment directly from her presence. Wildflowers that shouldn't bloom until late spring were opening their petals in a perfect circle around where she sat. The very air seemed to hum with an energy that made Ethan feel both calm and incredibly alert at the same time. The cub continued its gentle vocalizations, and Ethan realized these weren't random sounds but seemed to follow a pattern, almost like a conversation. The mother would occasionally open her eyes and look down at her baby with such profound love and sadness mixed together that Ethan felt tears forming in his own eyes. There was a goodbye happening here, but not the kind he had ever witnessed before. Hours seemed to pass like minutes as Ethan remained frozen in his hiding spot, afraid that any movement might disturb this mysterious ritual. The sun climbed higher, casting dancing shadows through the canopy, but the golden light emanating from the mother bear remained constant. Her breathing became even slower, more deliberate, and with each exhale, the light around her seemed to spread further into the forest floor. The cub began to move in small circles around its mother, touching different parts of her body with its tiny nose. Each time it made contact, a small pulse of light would travel from the mother through the ground and into the roots of nearby trees. Ethan watched in amazement as ancient oaks and maples seemed to straighten their trunks and spread their branches wider, as if they were receiving some vital life force. As the afternoon wore on, Ethan noticed he wasn't the only observer of this extraordinary event. A red fox had emerged from the underbrush and sat at a respectful distance, its usual alertness replaced by a calm reverence. Soon after, a family of deer stepped delicately into the clearing, followed by several rabbits and even a great horned owl that perched on a low branch despite the daylight hour. None of these animals showed any fear of each other or of the bears. Predators and prey sat together in perfect harmony, all focused on the mother bear and her glowing presence. The owl hooted softly, and the deer made gentle lowing sounds, while the rabbits sat perfectly still with their ears perked forward. It was as if the entire forest community had come to witness and honor whatever was taking place. The mother bear opened her eyes one more time and looked directly at Ethan's hiding spot. Her gaze was knowing and kind, and somehow he understood that she had been aware of his presence all along. She wasn't afraid of him, and more surprisingly, she seemed to approve of his witnessing this moment. Her eyes conveyed a message that Ethan couldn't put into words but felt deep in his soul. This was meant to be seen, meant to be remembered, meant to be understood by someone who could carry the story forward. As evening approached, the golden light around the mother bear began to pulse more rapidly, and the cub's vocalizations became more urgent but not distressed. The little one seemed to be encouraging its mother, supporting her through whatever process was unfolding. The gathered animals moved closer, forming a protective circle around the bear family, their presence offering comfort and solidarity. Ethan realized he was witnessing something that challenged every scientific principle he had learned about animal behavior, biology, and the natural world. This wasn't death as he understood it, nor was it life as he had ever observed it. This was something else entirely, something that existed in the space between what he knew and what he was beginning to suspect was possible. The mother bear's breathing became even more rhythmic, and with each breath, more light seemed to flow from her body into the earth below. The trees around the clearing began to glow with the same golden radiance, their leaves rustling with an energy that had nothing to do with wind. The very ground seemed to pulse with life, and Ethan could feel the vibration through his boots and up into his chest. As darkness began to fall, the forest around the clearing remained illuminated by the gentle golden light. The mother bear's eyes closed again, and her breathing slowed to an almost imperceptible rhythm. The cub curled up against her side, no longer making sounds but radiating a peaceful acceptance that seemed far beyond its young age. The other animals maintained their vigil, creating a living sanctuary around the bear family. Ethan knew he was witnessing something that would change him forever, something that would make him question everything he thought he understood about life, death, and the connections that bind all living things together. The golden light continued to pulse gently through the forest, and he realized that whatever was happening here was far from over. This was just the beginning of a mystery that would lead him deeper into the heart of something ancient and beautiful. The night air filled with the softest whisper of wind through the leaves, and Ethan settled in for what he somehow knew would be a long and transformative vigil. The mother bear's gift, whatever it was still being given, and the forest was still receiving it with gratitude and reverence. Tomorrow would bring new understanding, but tonight was for witnessing the impossible and allowing it to change everything he thought he knew about the world. When dawn broke the next morning, Ethan stirred from a peaceful sleep he hadn't realized he had fallen into. The clearing looked different in the morning light, more vibrant and alive than any forest scene he had ever encountered. The mother bear was still there, still glowing softly, and her cub was still curled against her side. But something had shifted during the night, something that made the air itself feel different, charged with possibility and wonder. The gathered animals were still present, but they seemed more relaxed now, as if the most intense part of whatever ceremony they were witnessing had passed. The fox was grooming itself calmly, the deer were grazing peacefully, and the owl had tucked its head under its wing for a daytime rest. Everything felt normal and completely extraordinary at the same time. As Ethan stretched his stiff muscles and tried to process what he had experienced, he heard footsteps approaching through the forest. A woman emerged from between the trees, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who belonged in this wild place. She was perhaps in her 40s, with long dark hair streaked with premature silver, and eyes that seemed to hold depths of knowledge about things most people never even suspected existed. The woman approached the clearing without hesitation, and none of the animals showed any alarm at her presence. She nodded respectfully to the mother bear, who opened her eyes and seemed to acknowledge her with a gentle rumble of recognition. The woman then turned to Ethan, and her smile was warm but tinged with a sadness that spoke of deep understanding. "You've been chosen to witness this," she said quietly, her voice carrying an accent that suggested she had lived in these mountains her entire life. "My name is Lily Morgan, and I've been waiting for someone like you to find this place. The bears know things that we've forgotten, and this mother is about to teach us something beautiful about what it truly means to give." Ethan stood slowly, his legs cramped from the long night of watching, but his mind alert and hungry for answers. "I'm Ethan Marshall, the forest ranger for this district. I've never seen anything like this. What's happening to her? Is she sick? The light, the way the other animals are behaving, none of this makes sense according to anything I've learned about wildlife behavior." Lily moved closer to the mother bear, and the great animal looked up at her with obvious trust and affection. "She's not sick, Ethan. She's preparing for the most generous act any living being can perform. What you're seeing is the beginning of a process that's been happening in these mountains for thousands of years, long before humans built cities or wrote books about how nature is supposed to work." The cub looked up at Lily and made soft, welcoming sounds, as if greeting an old friend. Lily knelt down and gently stroked the little one's head, and Ethan was amazed to see the same golden light that surrounded the mother begin to flicker around Lily's hands. This little one understands what's happening better than most adult humans ever could. Bears are connected to the earth in ways we've lost touch with, and mother bears especially carry wisdom that goes back to the very beginning of life in these forests. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine, not from fear, but from the recognition that he was standing at the edge of something vast and ancient. What kind of process? What's she preparing for? And why do you seem to know so much about it? Lily stood and looked around the clearing, taking in the vibrant plant life, the peaceful gathering of animals, and the gentle golden glow that seemed to emanate from everything in the area. "My grandmother was the last person in our family to witness this ceremony, and she spent her whole life waiting for it to happen again. She told me stories that I thought were just beautiful legends until I moved back to these mountains 5 years ago and started noticing signs that the time was coming again." The morning sun climbed higher, but the golden light around the mother bear didn't fade. If anything, it seemed to grow stronger and more purposeful as the day progressed. The cub had begun to move around its mother again, touching different parts of her body with its nose and paws, and each contact sent visible pulses of light through the ground and into the surrounding trees. "She's giving her life force to the forest," Lily continued, her voice filled with reverence and wonder, "but not in the way you might think. This isn't about death, Ethan. This is about transformation, about becoming part of something larger and more permanent than any single life could ever be. She's donating the very essence of what makes her alive, her spirit, her energy, her connection to all living things, and she's weaving it into the fabric of this forest so that it can continue to thrive for generations to come." Ethan stared at the mother bear, trying to process what Lily was telling him. That's impossible. Energy doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. What you're describing sounds like magic, not science. Lily smiled gently, and her eyes held the patience of someone who had wrestled with these same questions. Maybe the difference between magic and science is just a matter of what we're willing to accept as possible. Look around you, Ethan. Look at how green the grass is, how healthy the trees appear, how peacefully all these different animals are coexisting. Look at the light that's coming from her body, and tell me that what you're seeing fits into any scientific framework you've ever studied. As if to emphasize her point, a small sapling near the mother bear's feet began to grow visibly, its stem lengthening and new leaves unfurling in real time. The other animals watched this growth with calm acceptance, as if they had seen such things before, and understood them to be natural parts of a process that was larger than any individual understanding. The cub made a sound that was almost like laughter, a joyful trill that seemed to celebrate the new growth. It bounded over to the sapling and gently touched it with its nose, and the little tree responded by growing another few inches and sprouting a cluster of tiny flowers that shouldn't appear until the plant was much more mature. Her cub isn't sad about what's happening, Lily observed. Look at how playful and content it is. That little one understands something that we're just beginning to grasp. This isn't an ending, it's a transformation. The mother's love and life force are becoming part of the forest itself, and her cub will grow up surrounded by that love, nurtured by trees and plants that carry its mother's essence. Ethan felt his worldview shifting with each passing moment. Everything he had been taught about the natural world, about life and death, about the boundaries between individual organisms and their environment, was being challenged by what he was witnessing. How long does this process take? How long has she been doing this? According to my grandmother's stories, it can take several days or even weeks, Lily replied. The mother chooses when to begin, and she controls the pace. She'll continue transferring her life force into the forest until she's given everything she can give, and then she'll become one with the earth itself. Her body will remain, but it will be transformed into something that continues to nourish and protect this place. The afternoon passed in a dreamlike state of observation and wonder. More animals arrived throughout the day, each species represented by individuals who seemed to understand their role in this ceremony. A family of raccoons brought small offerings of nuts and berries, placing them in a careful circle around the mother bear. A pair of hawks circled overhead, not hunting but serving as aerial guardians for the gathering below. As evening approached again, Ethan realized that he had been changed by his time in this clearing. The skeptical, scientifically minded ranger who had stumbled upon this scene was being replaced by someone more open, more willing to accept mystery and wonder as valid parts of the natural world. The golden light continued to pulse gently around the mother bear, and he found himself breathing in rhythm with her slow, purposeful respirations. "I need to understand this better," he told Lily as they sat together at the edge of the clearing, watching the peaceful scene unfold before them. "If this is real, if this is actually happening, then there are things about the natural world that we've completely missed or forgotten. This could change everything we think we know about ecology, about the connections between living things, about what's possible in terms of energy transfer and symbiosis." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "My grandmother used to say that humans became so focused on taking apart the world to understand it that we forgot how to see it as a whole. We learned to study individual trees but lost sight of the forest. We learned to examine single animals but forgot about the web of relationships that connects all living things. What you're witnessing here is that web in action, the forest community coming together to participate in something that benefits everyone." The cub had settled down for the night, curled up against its mother's side, but its eyes remained open and alert. It seemed to be watching over the ceremony, ensuring that everything proceeded as it should. The other animals had arranged themselves in a protective circle, creating a living barrier that felt both sacred and secure. As the stars appeared overhead, the golden light around the mother bear seemed to pulse in rhythm with the twinkling of the celestial bodies above. Ethan felt a profound connection, not just to the scene before him, but to something vast and ancient that encompassed all of life on Earth. He was beginning to understand that what he was witnessing wasn't an anomaly or a miracle, but a glimpse into the way the natural world actually worked when humans weren't interfering with its processes. The night passed peacefully, with the gathered animals maintaining their vigil and the mother bear continuing her slow, deliberate process of transformation. Ethan dozed fitfully, waking periodically to check on the scene and finding it unchanged but somehow deeper, more profound with each passing hour. The golden light had become as familiar as moonlight, and the gentle sounds of the forest community felt like a lullaby that connected him to something larger than his individual existence. When morning came again, Ethan knew that his life had been permanently altered by what he had witnessed. The mother bear was still there, still glowing, still breathing slowly and purposefully. Her cub was still curled against her side, still watching over the ceremony with its ancient, knowing eyes. The other animals were still present, still maintaining their respectful vigil. But something had shifted during the night, something that suggested the next phase of this extraordinary process was about to begin. Lily appeared again as the sun rose, emerging from the forest, as if she had been keeping her own vigil somewhere nearby. She looked at the mother bear with a mixture of sadness and anticipation, and Ethan realized that they were approaching a crucial moment in whatever ceremony they had been privileged to witness. "Today will be different," Lily said quietly, settling down beside Ethan at the edge of the clearing. "The preparation phase is ending, and the actual transfer is about to begin. What we've seen so far has been beautiful, but what's coming next will challenge everything you think you understand about what's possible in this world." The mother bear opened her eyes and looked directly at both humans, her gaze conveying a message of trust and invitation. She was asking them to witness the next phase, to carry forward the memory of what they were about to see. The cub stood up and began to move in more purposeful circles around its mother, its vocalizations taking on a new urgency and complexity. The other animals seemed to sense the change as well, becoming more alert and focused. The golden light around the mother bear began to pulse more rapidly, and Ethan could feel the energy building towards something significant. Whatever was about to happen, he knew it would be the culmination of everything they had observed over the past 2 days. As the morning mist began to clear, revealing the full beauty of the transformed clearing, Ethan prepared himself for the next chapter of this extraordinary journey. The mother bear's gift was about to be fully revealed, and he sensed that understanding it would require him to expand his conception of what was possible in the natural world. The forest was about to teach him something profound about the true meaning of generosity, connection, and the eternal cycle of giving and receiving that bound all living things together. The cub's movements became more deliberate as it led Ethan and Lily deeper into the forest, following a path that seemed to shimmer with the same golden light that surrounded its mother. The little bear moved with purpose, occasionally looking back to ensure the humans were following, its eyes holding that same ancient wisdom that had captivated Ethan from the beginning. The morning air grew warmer as they walked, and the forest around them seemed to pulse with an energy that made every leaf, every blade of grass, every flower appear more vivid and alive than anything Ethan had ever seen before. As they walked deeper into the woods, Ethan noticed that the trees were changing. The bark on the ancient oaks and maples seemed to glow with an inner light, and their leaves rustled with a sound that was almost musical, like a gentle symphony played by the wind itself. Flowers bloomed in impossible profusion along their path, creating a carpet of colors that shouldn't exist together in nature, but somehow formed a perfect harmony of beauty and fragrance. The cub stopped at what appeared to be an ordinary thicket of brambles and undergrowth. But as it approached, the thorny barrier seemed to part like curtains, revealing a hidden entrance to a grove that took Ethan's breath away. The space beyond was circular, perhaps 50 feet across, surrounded by trees so ancient and massive that their trunks seemed to disappear into the canopy high above. But it was the light in this grove that made Ethan's heart race with wonder and disbelief. Golden radiance filled the entire space, not harsh like sunlight, but gentle and warm like the glow of countless candles. The light seemed to emanate from the very ground itself, pulsing upward through the roots of the great trees and flowing like liquid gold through every branch and leaf. The grass in the grove was the most vibrant green Ethan had ever seen, and flowers of every imaginable color grew in perfect spirals that seemed to follow some ancient geometric pattern. "This is the Grove of Giving," Lily whispered, her voice filled with reverence and awe. "My grandmother told me stories about this place, but I never imagined it was real. This is where the ceremony reaches its completion, where the mother's gift becomes part of the forest's eternal heart." The cub bounded into the center of the grove and sat down in a spot where the golden light seemed most intense. It made soft, welcoming sounds, as if inviting Ethan and Lily to witness what was about to unfold. As they moved closer, Ethan realized that the light wasn't just illuminating the grove. It was alive, moving and flowing like a gentle river of pure energy that connected every living thing in the space. Behind them, the sound of careful footsteps announced the arrival of the mother bear. She moved slowly into the grove, her massive form now completely suffused with golden light that made her appear almost translucent. The other animals from the clearing followed her in a solemn procession, each species taking its place around the perimeter of the grove as if they had done this many times before and knew exactly where they belonged. The mother bear approached the center of the grove where her cub waited, and as she walked, Ethan could see streams of golden light flowing from her body into the ground with each step. Where her paws touched the earth, new flowers bloomed instantly, their petals glowing with the same radiance that surrounded her. The very air in the grove seemed to shimmer and dance, filled with an energy that made Ethan feel more alive and connected to everything around him than he had ever felt before. "She's not just giving her life force," Lily said softly, her eyes wide with wonder, as she watched the mother bear settle into the center of the grove. "She's giving her memories, her experiences, her love, her wisdom. Everything that made her who she was is flowing into the forest, becoming part of its consciousness, its ability to nurture and protect all the creatures that call it home." The cub curled up against its mother's side, and both bears began to glow with such intensity that Ethan had to shield his eyes momentarily. When he looked again, he could see streams of light flowing not just from the mother into the ground, but from the ground up into the surrounding trees, and from the trees out into the forest beyond. The entire ecosystem was connected by this network of golden energy, receiving and sharing the mother's gift in ways that defied every scientific principle Ethan had ever learned. As the process intensified, Ethan began to understand what Lily had meant about the mother donating her organs while still alive. But these weren't physical organs in any conventional sense. The mother bear was giving the essential parts of her being, the spiritual and emotional centers that had made her a protector, a nurturer, a wise guardian of the forest. Her courage was flowing into the mighty oaks, making them stronger and more resilient. Her maternal love was spreading through the wildflowers, ensuring that they would bloom more beautifully and provide better nourishment for the creatures that depended on them. The other animals in the grove began to participate in the ceremony in ways that amazed Ethan. The deer stepped forward and touched their noses to the mother bear's glowing form, and he could see streams of light flowing between them, as if they were receiving some of her gentleness and grace. The foxes approached next, and their contact with the mother seemed to transfer some of her cunning and adaptability. Even the great horned owl swooped down from its perch and briefly touched the bear with one wing, apparently receiving some portion of her wisdom and far-seeing vision. "They're all being blessed," Lily explained, tears streaming down her face as she watched the incredible scene unfold. She's sharing different aspects of herself with each species, giving them the gifts they need most to thrive in this forest. The deer are receiving her protective instincts, the foxes her intelligence, the birds her ability to see the big picture. She's making the entire forest community stronger and more connected. The cub remained close to its mother throughout the process, but Ethan could see that it wasn't losing her. Instead, it was being prepared to carry forward her legacy in a new way. Streams of golden light flowed between mother and cub, but these were different from the energy going to the other animals and the forest itself. The little bear was receiving something more personal, more intimate. It was inheriting not just its mother's love, but her role as a guardian and protector of this sacred place. As the ceremony continued, Ethan noticed changes in the grove itself that went beyond the obvious glow and energy. The trees seemed to be growing taller and stronger in real time, their branches reaching toward each other to form a protective canopy that would shelter the space for generations to come. New springs of clear water bubbled up from the ground, creating small streams that would provide fresh water for all the forest creatures. The very soil seemed richer and more fertile, promising abundant growth for countless seasons ahead. Hours passed in this state of wonder and transformation, and Ethan found himself understanding things about the natural world that he had never even imagined were possible. The forest wasn't just a collection of individual plants and animals competing for resources. It was a living, breathing entity with its own consciousness and wisdom, capable of receiving and integrating the gifts offered by creatures like the mother bear. The grove was the heart of this greater organism, the place where such transformations could occur and spread their benefits throughout the entire ecosystem. The mother bear's physical form began to change as the ceremony reached its climax. Her body became more and more translucent, as if she was slowly fading into the golden light that surrounded her. But there was nothing sad or frightening about this transformation. Instead, it felt like watching someone step through a doorway into a larger, more beautiful room. Her essence was expanding beyond the boundaries of her individual body and becoming part of something infinitely greater. The cub seemed to understand exactly what was happening and showed no distress at its mother's transformation. Instead, it began to play in the streams of golden light that flowed around them, tumbling and rolling with the pure joy of a young animal surrounded by love and safety. The other animals in the grove watched with calm acceptance, as if they too understood that this was not an ending but a beautiful beginning. As evening approached, the mother bear's transformation reached its completion. Her physical body had become so filled with light that it was barely visible. More energy than matter, more spirit than flesh. The golden radiance that had surrounded her now permeated the entire grove and was spreading outward into the forest beyond, carrying her gifts to every corner of the woodland realm she had chosen to bless. The cub stood up and walked to where its mother's form was now barely distinguishable from the light itself. It made soft musical sounds that seemed like words of gratitude and farewell, and the light pulsed gently in response, as if the mother was acknowledging her little one's understanding and blessing. Then the cub turned to face the assembled animals and made a different sound, one that seemed to announce that it was ready to take on its new role as the guardian of this sacred place. The other animals approached the cub one by one, each offering their own form of respect and pledge of support. The deer bowed their heads, the foxes touched noses with the little bear, the rabbits sat up on their hind legs in a gesture of salute, and the great owl hooted softly from its perch above. They were acknowledging the cub as their new protector, the inheritor of its mother's wisdom and responsibility. As night fell, the grove settled into a peaceful glow that would continue to emanate from this place for generations to come. The mother bear's physical form had completely merged with the light and energy of the forest, but her presence was stronger than ever, woven into every tree, every flower, every blade of grass in the grove and beyond. She had achieved a form of immortality that was more beautiful and meaningful than any individual life could ever be. Ethan and Lily remained in the grove until dawn, watching over the cub and marveling at the transformation that had taken place. The little bear slept peacefully in the center of the sacred space, surrounded by the gentle glow of its mother's eternal presence. The other animals had settled into positions around the perimeter, creating a living circle of protection that would ensure the cub's safety as it grew into its new role. When morning came, the grove looked different yet again. The golden light was still present but had become more subtle, more integrated into the natural appearance of the space. To a casual observer, it might look like an unusually beautiful clearing, but to those who knew what to look for, the signs of the mother bear's gift were everywhere. The trees stood taller and stronger, the flowers bloomed more vibrantly, the streams ran clearer and purer, and the very air seemed charged with life and possibility. The cub woke with the sunrise and immediately began exploring its transformed home with curiosity and delight. It played in the streams, rolled in the soft grass, and climbed on the lower branches of the great trees, all while maintaining an awareness of its surroundings that showed it was already beginning to understand its responsibilities as the grove's guardian. The other animals watched over it with protective care, ready to help teach it everything it would need to know. Lily knelt beside one of the new streams and cupped the crystal-clear water in her hands. "This water will have healing properties," she said softly. "Plants watered with it will grow stronger and more resilient. Animals that drink from these streams will be healthier and live longer. The mother's gift will continue to give for generations, long after everyone who witnessed this ceremony has passed on." Ethan understood now why he had been chosen to witness this incredible event. It wasn't just about observing something beautiful and mysterious. It was about carrying forward the knowledge that such things were possible, that the natural world contained depths of wisdom and connection that modern science had barely begun to explore. He had been given the responsibility of remembering and sharing this story, of helping others understand that the boundaries between individual lives and the greater web of existence were far more fluid than most people ever imagined. The cub approached them as they prepared to leave the grove, and it made soft sounds that seemed like words of gratitude and farewell. Ethan knelt down and gently touched the little bear's head, feeling a warm pulse of energy that connected him to the mother's continuing presence in the forest. He understood that he would always be welcome in this place, always be considered a friend and protector of the sacred grove and its young guardian. As they walked back through the forest toward the outside world, Ethan noticed that the changes wrought by the mother bear's gift extended far beyond the grove itself. Trees throughout the woodland stood straighter and healthier, streams ran clearer, and the very air seemed more vibrant and alive. The entire ecosystem had been strengthened and renewed by the mother's sacrifice, and the benefits would continue to spread and multiply for years to come. The transformation was complete, but the story was just beginning. The cub would grow up surrounded by its mother's love and wisdom, learning to be a guardian of the sacred grove and a protector of all the creatures that called the forest home. The other animals would continue to benefit from the gifts they had received, becoming stronger and more capable of facing the challenges that lay ahead. And the forest itself would thrive in ways that would seem miraculous to those who didn't understand the true source of its renewed vitality. Ethan knew that his life as a forest ranger would never be the same. He had witnessed something that challenged every assumption about the natural world, something that revealed the existence of connections and possibilities that science had yet to discover or acknowledge. He would continue to protect and serve the forest, but now he would do so with a deeper understanding of what he was truly protecting. He was not just guarding trees and animals, but safeguarding a living, conscious entity that was capable of wisdom, generosity, and love on a scale that humbled and inspired him. The mother bear's gift had revealed the truth that Lily's grandmother had tried to preserve through her stories. The natural world was not a collection of separate, competing organisms, but a vast, interconnected web of consciousness and care. Individual lives mattered not just for their own sake, but for their ability to contribute to the greater whole, to give their unique gifts in service of something larger and more enduring than any single existence could ever be. As they reached the edge of the transformed forest and prepared to return to the human world, Ethan took one last look back toward the grove. He could still see the gentle golden glow rising above the treetops, a beacon of hope and wonder that would guide him for the rest of his life. The mother bear's sacrifice had created something beautiful and eternal, a legacy of love that would continue to nurture and protect the forest for generations to come. The cub was safe, the forest was renewed, and the ancient cycle of giving and receiving had been completed once again. The mother bear had donated the most precious organs of all, the spiritual and emotional centers of her being, while still alive to see the incredible results of her generosity. What had happened next was indeed shocking, but in the most wonderful way imaginable. Love had triumphed over death, connection had overcome separation, and the eternal dance of life had been renewed through the ultimate act of selfless giving. The story would live on in Ethan's memory and in Lily's family traditions, passed down through generations as a reminder of what was possible when love transcended the boundaries of individual existence. The grove would continue to glow with the mother's presence. The cub would grow into a wise and powerful guardian, and the forest would thrive as a testament to the incredible power of sacrifice and transformation. In the end, the mother bear had achieved something far greater than mere survival. She had become immortal through her generosity, eternal through her love, and infinite through her willingness to give everything she had for the benefit of others. Her story was a reminder that the greatest gifts are not those we keep for ourselves, but those we offer freely to the world, trusting that they will continue to grow and multiply long after we ourselves have become part of the greater mystery of existence.